Hello guys, welcome to my show. My guest is an American artist, Alayne Sahar. Alayne loves to portray divine feminine in her watercolor paintings. As she keeps growing as an artist, Alayne wants to uplift women, painting the divine beauty of who she is. She took part in numerous national and international exhibitions, and her work has been shown at the National Arts Club in New York, the Samal Club, the Warsaw Museum of Contemporary Art. Alayne is a lovely human being, and I'm happy to share her wisdom in this video podcast. Well, welcome to my show.
Thank you for asking me to be a part of it.
Sure. Alayne, please share your experience studying art in college. What was it like? What did you feel? What did you gain from your experience?
My original exposure to art education was pre-college. I was fortunate enough to study with an artist outside of New York. And so I had most of my basic art training through her. I learned how to do all of the basics of color theory, of mixing, of being exposed to different media. And she made us go through an entire year of practicing at different mediums. And after that, we could focus on what we wanted to. And my intent at that time was to create a portfolio and go to art school in New York. That was my dream from the time I was a little girl. And that was not to happen for various and sundry reasons that I will not divert the conversation at this time. I started my formal art education at the University of Maryland. And my first semester there, I took a sculpture course, and right away, I felt like a stranger in a strange land, because at the premise, when I was first studying art formally in a university setting, there was not a concept of portraiture or figurative art. It was very much contemporary and abstract, which was not anything I was ever really interested in doing. So when the instructor gave us a block of plaster and he said, create an abstract sculpture for the first time, I didn't know what he was talking about. I didn't really understand how to go about that. And I was very unhappy during my time at university. So I discontinued my art studies at that time. And after I graduated from college, which was a very tumultuous time for me, because I had never prepared myself for anything but being in the art world. I did complete a certificate of fine arts from the Maryland Institute College of Art in Baltimore, Maryland. And I did that part-time. I was able to get a portfolio waived of 2 years of courses. So over a period of years, through evening courses and weekend courses and seminars, I was able to complete my certificate in fine arts from MICA, as it's known. And now I live outside of Philadelphia, and I continue my studies at the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts, primarily in watercolor. And I also study privately with a couple of people. Mm-hmm. So to answer your question about what was the difference, the university education, which was never my first choice, was a much broader focus. I always wanted a more atelier type of a setting where the whole world was about drawing and painting and sculpture and portraiture and anatomy and really learning about different mediums. And I found that the university setting was not able to offer that. So it left me feeling very disappointed when I went to art school, both in Baltimore and outside and in Philadelphia. For the first time, I felt I was really getting what I needed, what I really needed to learn the skills to begin my journey as an artist.
We get encouragement or we get discouraged when we start working on our creative pursuits. And I'd like for you to share your experience from the family perspective. Did you get the support that you needed to pursue your art degree, or you found it very difficult to become an artist? And how do you think it affected your overall career as an artist? Do you think it took you longer to find yourself? How supportive was your family in this regard?
Not at all. As a matter of fact, I was told flat out that I couldn't make a living as an artist, that it wasn't practical, that it was something nice to do on the side, but I got virtually no support from my family to support a career in painting. So because of that, I had to do it myself. And did it take me longer? I mean, absolutely. I'm still on my journey, but I like to believe that there was a reason why I took this circuitous route. And I have to believe that there was a reason why it took me longer, and it took me a non-traditional way of living it and creating it for myself. So the passion never died in me. And I think the important takeaway and the important lesson that I learned is that I never stopped believing in myself, and I found a way to make it happen for me. And I think that's really the more important thing that that I've learned from this journey.
What did you do after your graduation from the university?
Mhm, mhm.
What day job did you get?
Well, it was interesting. So when I was floundering around in college, um, I started experimenting with other art forms. I went and I explored other areas: theater, dance, music. Art went on the back burner for a while. I was very disappointed. I was very discouraged. And I felt at that point, I did not have a lot of confidence in myself in terms of my art ability. I'd felt beaten down
Mhm.
because I hadn't gotten support. I was disappointed with going to university. So at that point, I started to pursue some other avenues and dabbled in some other areas. So I graduated with a degree finally, although it took me a long time. And then I went, believe it or not, my first venue outside of college was playing piano in downtown bar, and I actually loved that. That was really fun. And then I proceeded to get a job. I was in the corporate world for most of my career, but during that time, I was old. That's when I went to art school. That's when I earned my certificate in fine arts. That's when I was always, all of my vacation time, I was taking seminars. I was going on art workshops. So all of this time, I felt like I was living two lives because I was living this one very left brain life to make money to support myself.
What did
And
you do exactly? Was it like in corporate?
yes, I was in corporate. I did a number of things in corporate, but my last 15 years, I was a trainer. So I created a training program for onboarding new hires in North and South America. And I really enjoyed that aspect of it, but it was very technical. I was in the pharmaceutical industry, and it was very technical and very, very foreign from how I naturally wanted to be in the world. But I found that it was a necessary avenue and a necessary venue to do what I had to do to manage the other parts of my life that I loved.
Let's talk about your painting. First of all, you do watercolor painting. I'd like to know what you find exciting about watercolor painting. Why not oil painting or acrylics or even drawing? What do you find so exciting about watercolor painting?
Well, first, let me say I love drawing. I think I might even like drawing more than painting. So, drawing is something that has always been inspiring to me and will be inspiring to me, I am sure, for the rest of my life. Because, as far as I'm concerned, if you don't have a good grasp on drawing, I don't know how you can expect to be a good painter.
Right.
It's the, you know, as we know, it's the bones, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the bones of whatever medium we choose to add to it. So I had painted oil for many, many years, and I loved painting in oil. I decided to move away from oil into watercolor, first and foremost, I think, because I love the translucent quality of layering
Mm-hmm.
glazes of watercolor on top of each other, and it gives almost uh, a mystical, shimmery effect where I found it cannot be achieved with oil. So that was part of the reason. And secondly, I got really tired practically of waiting for oils to dry and varnishing and the smell
Yeah.
of the oils. And I just got really impatient with it. And I said, I want something that a medium that I can work in where I can just use a hair dryer or let it dry, and then I can, you know, put another layer on top of it. So it was very practically just easier to
Mm-hmm.
work with. Although sometimes I wonder, because it's the hardest thing I've ever done. So sometimes I wonder why I chose this path, because it certainly is not one that's easy to excel in.
So the female figure is central to your art, and I'd like to know what the female figure represents in your painting, if there is a symbolic meaning to your paintings. If you could tell me more about that.
Absolutely. So I think that to get an understanding of why I paint the female figure, can I read my artist statement? Because I think that summarizes
Sure.
it. Okay. So the way I would describe myself is that I am a figurative watercolor painter whose aesthetic depicts the female figure in the natural world, where the mood is romantic and the women are portrayed as ardent, poetic beings who evoke the soulful side of femininity. My work portrays the relationship between nature and something more mystical. So I think that really sums up what I'm trying to say in my painting. I like to focus on the idea, as I know you do also, Veronica, the divine feminine, the divine goddess, that side, that strength that women have, that's very, of course, unique to being female. I want to paint to express the divine feminine, that soulful side of women, that deep, deep soulful side, that tie with nature, tie with our higher selves, and accessing our emotions and not being afraid to show them.
So, how do you express that spiritual side of the feminine in your art? What do you do exactly to express it?
It's, you know, I don't know how I can really put it into words. I have certain ideas in my mind of what represent higher consciousness or goddess type of symbology. And I first picture it in my mind, and then I do photo shoots with my models,
Mm-hmm.
and I supply drapes and props. I give them homework actually before we work together. And I ask them to look at certain paintings to get an idea of what I'm trying to express in the photo shoot.
Mm-hmm.
So we work together kind of organically, and we're able to create that. And from there, I'm I take it on and paint it on the paper.
So, where do you find your models? How do you choose them?
Oh, this is actually kind of funny. I love redheads. I've always loved redheads.
Portraits.
And just like the pre-Raphaelites found Lizzie Siddall in a hat shop,
Mhm.
I found one of my favorite models in my hair salon.
Oh, okay.
And she's well, you see her in a large number of my paintings. She's
Mhm.
got red curly hair.
Mhm.
And I just always thought she was absolutely stunning. So I approached her one day and introduced myself and asked if she would be interested in modeling for me.
Mhm.
And that was 3 years ago. And from that, it has expanded to include some of her friends. And it's really phenomenal how our relationship has grown and how we've gotten to know one another and how working together has gotten more refined
Mm-hmm.
over time. So it's been a wonderful experience for all of us. And then Liz brought some of her friends, and it just sort of evolved from that.
How do you express the divine nature of women in your art? What exactly do you do to suggest it?
Many, if not most of my paintings are women in nature because I feel that's where the divine feminine has a direct connection.
Mm-hmm.
So most of my paintings are women in nature, in trees, in grass, in water, connecting with the natural world. And so I would say that is one way how I portray that aspect. And I think it's also in expressions, moments, glimpses, sort of that are more candid, where it is where there's just a look a certain way and you can see a woman's soul in it. And so that's what I try to capture in my photos and try to transfer that onto the paper.
Who or maybe what influences your art the most? Do
Yeah.
you have your favorite artists, or maybe music or
Mm.
anything else?
Oh, yes, of course, of course. I'm inspired by everything. Actually, I'm inspired by sitting in my backyard and watching the birds eat out of the bird feeder.
Mm-hmm.
I take walks in gardens and nature constantly. That's one of my favorite things to do to get inspired, because I find that I don't need to look any further than really outside my back door, being in nature, um, to really help solidify and make me feel like I want to create art. From an artistic perspective, I would say the Pre-Raphaelites, I love Waterhouse, Burne-Jones are two of my favorite painters. From a contemporary standpoint, I love Margaret Boland's paintings. Her paintings are
Mm-hmm.
very bold and emotional. And I think that's also an important quality that I like to portray in my paintings. From a music standpoint, it's interesting when I'm in my studio, sometimes I want total quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And other times, if I have music on, I find I love Brian Eno music, due to radio, more ethereal, sort of ambient type music, because then I'm not focusing on listening to the music. It just sort of um, helps raise my vibrational frequency and helps me channel what's going on.
And you live in Philadelphia, right?
I live in a suburb of
In the
Philadelphia.
suburb.
Yes.
So does the scenery affect your creative juices at all?
Oh, you couldn't have asked me the more. I could talk about that for probably an hour. So I won't do that, but absolutely it does. And my environment, my house is literally my castle. So everything in my house, my trees that I've planted outside, the shrubs that I've planted, the flowers that I plant, the world that I have created in my backyard and inside my home are extremely influential in how I feel about myself, how I feel about my world, because I have created a world in which I thrive. So the aesthetics, my aesthetics, um, I look around and everything I see is inspiring to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's absolutely integral. I'm one of those people who is very happy being in their home. And this pandemic, where it's been so difficult for many people, has, thank goodness, I'm fortunate, has not really affected me. As a matter of fact, I've loved the solitude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it didn't really change my day-to-day experience that much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I missed certain things like going out, like going to the gym and stuff. But as artists, we spend most of our time in our studios, so it wasn't that much of a change
Mm-hmm.
for me. So,
Mm-hmm.
so I
Mm-hmm.
can understand. As artists, we have certain goals. I'd like to know what you want to accomplish as an artist. What's your end goal? Like, where do you want to take your painting?
It's so interesting because depending upon when you ask me this question, I would probably have a different answer because as as most artists, we realize it's a lifelong journey.
Mm-hmm.
That's certainly how I see what it is for me. So I can say, oh, gee, I'd like to be in a museum. Yes, I want to sell my artwork. I'd like to be published, et cetera, et cetera. But I think from a very basic standpoint, really what I'd like to do is I'd like to uplift other women.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what I want my end game to be. Not my end game, my end goal to be. I can see from working with my models how it has transformed their self-confidence and their images of themselves. And they've been very candid with me about how that has changed them. And it's brought me to my knees. It's very humbling. And I would like to be able to have that effect on women because I think we spend so much time worrying about this or that, or, you know, do we look okay? Is everything all right? I want women to feel empowered when they look at my paintings and say, I'm absolutely okay as is. And we are all goddesses, and we just need to understand how to carry ourselves that way and how to believe that about ourselves. So that's really what I would like for my end result to
Mm-hmm.
be. If I can, because I do believe we're all connected, we're all one. And if I can help elevate that sense of womanhood and personal empowerment, then I feel that I will have accomplished what I want.
So, how do you overcome negative self-talk if you have any? Like, as women, we often penalize ourselves for something that goes wrong. Do you have anything like that in your mind? How do you describe yourself? Are you an optimist?
Well, I believe in the law of attraction.
And
And
what's that exactly for you?
yeah, so the premise of the law of attraction, simplistically, is you attract what you believe your reality is. So thought is energy. And if your thoughts are positive and dynamic versus self-doubt, I believe you will attract what you think. So my answer, I guess part of my comment is, do I have self-doubt? Absolutely. But I don't let it linger in my thoughts. So by understanding the law of attraction, thinking positively, working hard, believing in yourself, trusting your higher power, your consciousness. If you can
Mm-hmm.
believe in that and believe that you can channel that and create something very special that is unique to you, I believe you're going to get positive energy flowing back to you. And conversely, if you believe just the opposite, that's what you're going to attract. And I've lived that for many years, and I know that is the truth for me.
So, did your beliefs change over time? Like, did you believe the same things, say, when you went to university? For the,
No, of
you
course
know?
not. Of course not.
Okay, so how did you arrive at your
Mhm.
current set of beliefs?
It's all been part of my journey, Veronica. And
Well, I'd like to hear about that.
oh, like you're in the early part of my life, I had nothing but disappointment, and I felt that nothing was working for me, and I was never going to get what I wanted out of life, and I felt like every day was sort of an uphill struggle
Mm-hmm.
until I sort of self-imploded, and I started doing a lot of reading. and a lot of internal work. So journaling, reading. I'm not a religious person, but I am a spiritual person, praying, accessing my inner core, what I consider my higher consciousness, my God self within me. And the more I could understand what that meant, and the more I could understand the power that that has, the easier it was for me to access it. But it took daily practice for many years. So you've heard the term fake it till you make it. I
Mm-hmm.
felt in the beginning that's what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, oh, I don't know if any of this is going to work, or if any of this is true. So it was a little bit of fake it till you make it. And once I was able to internalize this belief system and trusting in my higher power, I was just sort of on a train of thought
Mm-hmm.
from your last comment about saying, well, you're obviously an optimist. And
Mm-hmm.
again, this has taken a lot of years and a lot of training. But what I've come to understand is that if I don't believe in myself, how can I expect anyone else to?
Mm-hmm.
It's got to start with us, me, you, the heart center. It's got to start there. And it's got to start with believing we're good enough and feeling we're good enough from the inside out. That's what I believe. And if we can understand that we all have, we're really a soul with a body. That's what I believe. And once we tap into our soul, our higher consciousness, and stop worrying about all of the other stuff that most of us let ourselves consume our lives with,
Mm-hmm.
that's when you uh, tap into your uniqueness and, for lack of a better word, your God center, and you can really channel at your highest level. That's really what I believe, and
So,
that's what I do.
okay, so how did you find that inner strength to believe in yourself? Because usually, if there is no support in the family, you find yourself feeling very weak,
Yeah.
and it takes a very long time to recover from that. Did you have any friends who helped you in any way?
Of course, I would never be so egotistical to say, "Oh, well, I did it all myself." I think I did it primarily myself because it's my life force. It is my life force, and I can't not do it.
Mhm.
I tried to put it on a back burner for a while, and doesn't work. Yes, I have been very fortunate to have the support of friends and my instructors, bless them all, for they have really helped encourage me and work through a lot of technical and, I would think, to some degree, some emotional things. So it's a collective effort, Veronica, friends, loved ones, instructors, but it's got to start inside. It's got to start with us believing in ourselves, us believing that we have a message, that we don't need to compare ourselves to anyone else. Just be the best that you can be, and let your own light shine.
Obviously, you talk about change and how you changed over the years.
Yes.
Did it change your relationship with your family in any way? Do you feel closer to your family now, or do you think it's the same, or maybe even worse?
Well, I was always close to my family. I mean, regardless of what I felt that they did or did not support me artistically, I always loved them because I knew that in their heart they felt that they were doing the best thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I always loved them, and I always felt close to them, and they gave me many gifts. And this wasn't a passion for them, and I think they were depression era parents, and their focus was very different. So I'm not judging that. I have always felt close with my family. Unfortunately, both of my parents are gone.
Mm-hmm.
And I have an identical twin sister who I am very close with, and we have been close forever,
Mhm.
and that relationship stays very strong. The more mature I get, the more I realize it's nice to have support, but it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter because I believe in me, and that is so strong. I
Mhm.
believe in me to what end point, where it takes me. Um, I just want to be the best version of myself that I can be.
I think parents don't want children to go to, to pursue art degree because they worry about the financial stability. And that's the main reason or concern why, parents don't want children to pursue creative profession. What do you say to that? Do you think that it's better for parents to be conservative and to protect their children from pursuing the artistic profession, or do you think it's best to give them tools to be creative and decide for themselves if it's worth taking the risk?
Yeah, I can see it from both perspectives, actually. I mean, I understand money was always an issue in my family, and so I can understand my parents being very concerned about that for
Mhm.
me, and they did their best. They wanted to protect me. That had dire consequences for me in terms of emotionally and psychologically what I dealt with and what I had to do to find my own way. But I say maybe that was part of my life journey, that I wasn't going to go the traditional route, that I went a very circuitous route, and that I also learned other skills that I would have not had
Mhm.
I taken the more traditional route. So I don't really feel that there is a right or a wrong. It is obviously it's a very difficult path to pursue, and from a financial standpoint, so I don't know if it was right or if it's wrong. I would like to say when I talk to some of my friends and they say, "Oh, my parents let me do whatever I want and I could have gone to art school." There's a part of me that feels a little nostalgic, like, wow, I wish I could have had that time of my life where I could have really just embraced excuse me, embraced my passion and been in that environment and allowed myself to explore that. Maybe I wouldn't have had to go through all of the sadness and disappointment and frustration that I went through. But at the same time, I try not to speculate because I believe that my life is evolving exactly as it should. And maybe had I gone the more traditional route, I would not be where I am today
Mhm.
because what I'm painting today and through my life experiences as they are have been shaped by what has happened to me.
Mhm. So, what do you feel when you paint? Ah, I see you have a friend behind you.
Oh yeah, I I have six.
Six. Wow, that's a lot.
I'm not allowed in the shelters anymore.
Wow.
um, I'm the happiest. I'll say that I am definitely my happiest when I'm sitting and painting. What do I feel? I feel that I'm a channel. I feel that I am a vehicle through which I would like to think divine energy flows through and helps me create the imagery. Before I paint every day, I sit quietly and I breathe and I ask for assistance. And I really believe that if you want to call it my higher consciousness, I try to raise my vibration by just focusing on doing the best work that I can do at the highest level for the good of all and let it rest at that. So I guess when you ask me that question, I would say for the most part, when I'm in my studio, I feel very serene. Um, I let go of control and I really just kind of give it up to being assisted. Now, if you say, how do I feel when I'm taking workshops or classes, or I'm learning a new technique, or I'm struggling, I feel frustrated and confused, and sometimes question why I do this. So it's not like it's always easy for me, but because I still feel a lot of frustration, and I still feel that on the spectrum I have a lot to learn and a ways to go. But I'm okay with where I am right now, because I trust that's where I should be, and I'm just going to stick with it and continue to evolve and continue to mature and continue to grow and see what avenues that takes me.
Is your twin sister an artist too, or no?
She is. We had very different lifestyles. My sister, my identical twin sister, um, got married at a younger age and had a family. And so her energy was really caught up with raising a family and working full time.
Mm-hmm.
I do not have children. So I was able to go to art school. I was able to focus a little bit more on those areas of my life. But yes, she is a painter, and she now has the capability to paint and focus more of her energy on that. And she's a beautiful painter.
Mm-hmm. So do you find inspiration just talking to each other,
Of
or?
course, of course, absolutely. And I think part of that is that we know each other so well, and we know each other's journey, and we know how far we've come, and how much we've learned, and uh, what our belief system is. And my sister believes very much in the same capacity that I do.
Mm-hmm.
It's lovely to be able to have her. I feel
Um,
very blessed.
in your art, sometimes you have one figure and other times you have multiple figures. Is there a different, like, is there significance to that?
I think it just depends on what I want to portray. I can think of one of my favorite paintings titled Cloud Gazers, where I have three women. It was in my backyard, and my three models all laid down head to head looking up at the sky.
Mm-hmm.
And to create that effect, I felt like I needed three figures. So it just depends on what type of imagery I want to, what type of emotion I want to portray. I plan to do a series on twins. So I'll be doing a whole series of two women in a painting.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, it's less about how many women are in the painting versus um, what emotion do I want to express.
And what emotions do you want to?
Oh, um, all the empowering stuff, all the good stuff,
All
you
the
know,
good stuff.
all the good stuff. Doesn't that sound great? All the good stuff. That we are good enough as is. We're all beautiful. We are all divine goddesses, and we need to find our own way of expressing it
Mm-hmm.
and believing in ourselves. That's what I want to portray. I want every woman to be able to not have self-doubt and to believe in herself and in the beauty of who she is, and not stop comparing ourselves to what the industry feels we should be. I just feel that's so toxic. So that's what I want to portray. I want to portray that divine feminine, that strength within, that we can really all believe that we're beautiful and we're unique and we're here for a very special purpose. And that we're really all connected. I think if um, those are all of the emotions I want to convey. So I want to convey strength of womanhood in through the divine feminine, and convey how powerful that is.
Okay.
Was that
Um,
an answer?
yeah, it's a very good answer. My next question actually arises from this answer. There is a lot of art that has been created over centuries, and so certain elements become beaten down and almost look like stereotypes or cliche.
Mhm.
Um, how do you find new ways of depicting the divine?
Yeah, and that's difficult for me to answer, Veronica, because I don't know that intellectually I can give you an answer for that. I can only say that I have my own image in my mind of what I want to portray. And maybe I'm not saying that what I do, no one else has attempted to do or hasn't done. I just do it my way.
And what's your way?
Um, I use certain aesthetics, and I like to use a lot of drapery and props. And as I mentioned, most of my paintings are done outside. It's more uh, capturing a look, capturing an essence. And sometimes I don't even know if I'm doing it, and I just do my best to put on paper as best as I can. And sometimes I'm more successful with that than others, but it's certainly something that I continually pursue. You know, even if I try to copy, like in the old days where we would copy paintings in art school,
Mm-hmm.
um, it would still look like I did it, of course,
Mm-hmm.
as with all painters, right? We have our own touch, and I believe that's our own soul coming through. That's uh, and so I know that it's not exactly the same because it's me speaking through that.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you my last question.
Okay.
Let's talk about collecting art. I'd like to know how you decide what you want to collect. Is there specific criteria, or do you see it and you just want to get it? What's your motivation behind art collecting?
It's all emotional.
Emotional.
It's all emotional. It's all very visceral. I collect what I love, and I collect what speaks to me. As you know, I love your paintings.
Thanks.
I have three of your paintings, and so collecting art to me, I was looking around my house. It's all portraiture. It's all figurative. It's all female.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very drawn to women who express the divine feminine through their own eyes, and that captivates me because it's all slightly different.
Mm-hmm.
That's what draws me to collecting. I want soulful, um, inspiring paintings of women around me.
Does your husband support your habit?
Yes, he does. And I'm very grateful for that. I'm very grateful for that. He understands how important that is to me. And he's extremely supportive of helping me in any way that he can. So I feel very lucky about that. That was
Mhm.
rarely the case in my life.
Mhm. That's very good to hear.
Yes. Yeah. Um,
Does he participate in picking the pieces, or it's you buying art and?
Um, well, a little bit of both. I'm very fortunate in the respect that I pick the artwork, but and I do most of my own purchasing. But there have been times when there has been a painting I have fallen in love with, and Michael will purchase it for me because he knows how much it means to me. So, um, very lucky to have that kind of a man in my life.
Yeah, that's very good to hear. Do you have anything else you'd like to share?
Could I read a couple of quotes that I find inspiring?
Mhm.
Because this is also something that um, I like to do and see what other artists have to say about the process of painting. So I'm going to put on my glasses so I can see what I'm reading. But here is a quote from Pierre Mondrian, and it says, "The position of the artist is humble. He is essentially a channel." Or Jackson Pollock, "Every good painter paints what he is," right?
Mhm.
No great artist ever sees things as they really are. If they did, they would cease to be an artist. Oscar Wilde.
What
You
do
know,
you find meaningful in for you reading those quotes?
to me, it signifies that we're all connected, that we're all the same in our desire to portray the world visually. That's what that means to me. And to be part of that team, part of that group, although we all have our various ways to say it, to speak it, it's that drive, to represent our world that we want others to see, that I just find very powerful.
Very good. Alayne, I'd like to thank you for being on my show and taking your part.
Okay.
Well, thanks so much, Alayne.
This has been such a lovely experience for me, Veronica, and thank you for taking this on and
Sure.
making this happen. And
It's a lot of fun. I actually feel happy when I do it. This is the way.
yes, 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 exactly. Well, then you got to keep doing it.
Yeah, I will.
Good. All right.
I
So,
already have several guests planned, and all of them are very good artists.
lovely. Well, I again thank you for this opportunity. Nice chatting with you.
Yeah.
And till next time.
Take care. Bye-bye. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you have any questions, please leave a comment below this video. Also, all the links are provided in the show notes. Thanks so much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.